Hello and welcome back. We are going for another installment of my top 100 games. This time we're talking about number 70 through number 61. Let's get started. Number 70 is Ghost Stories. Now this is the expansion box, but the whole game's in here. Ghost Stories is a cooperative game, and it's known to be a pretty hard game. I've won it a few times. Actually, there was a time when I played it all the time and I got pretty good at it. The expansions add a little bit more to it, but basically you're a bunch of Buddhist monks that are fighting against a bunch of Chinese ghosts. They're not really ghosts that I'm used to seeing. They're, this very sort of Chinese mythology. I'm assuming it's Chinese. I might be being horrible here. But you're fighting against them. You're sort of sharing your actions between each other, and you're really working together. And it's hard enough that even when you are playing on easy, you're going to have a good challenge, and you'll feel really excited when you finally win. Ghost Stories is just a great cooperative game, and it looks gorgeous. The artwork is some of the best game artwork in here. So that is my number 70, Ghost Stories. My number 69 is a game, another one in the series of games that I think only I like, and that is City of Remnants. City of Remnants was a game from Plaid Hat Games, who made a couple other games that I really like. And this game, you're sort of on this destroyed world, and you've got these alien overlords, and you're trying to beg, steal, barter, borrow, kill, and do everything you can to get the most success in the game. You're building buildings, you're invading other people's buildings and taking them away, you're using all kinds of special abilities. It has a very interesting deck building mechanism that it's going through, but it combines it with a bunch of other things. Lots of little mechanisms thrown in here. And it's a tight game, and the different factions are different, and it's a lot of fun, especially when somebody already knows what they're doing. It's a game that I don't play as much as I used to, and it used to be a little bit higher on my list, but it's one that I need to get back out to the table again soon. My number 69, City of Remnants. My number 68 is a game that I have played and played and played and played and played. This is Power Grid. Power Grid is a game about managing power plants. Now, I know I talked about Energy Empire earlier, and that's more abstract. This one's pretty down to the details of how to manage it. You're buying the fuel, and you're building better power plants, and you're trying to plan out how many houses you can power. And it's a heavy economic game, and I love the market. I love the way the market works with supply and demand. I remember when I first played it, I was like, oh my goodness, that's amazing. Power Grid has way too many maps now. In fact, I think I've got it in 3 different boxes. And, you've got a map of Germany and the US, but you've also got a map of China and a map of Central Europe. And you've got just lots of different ways to play, each one adding different small changes to the rules, different demand scenarios. But it's a lot of fun, especially with a smaller group, maybe 3 people. I'm not too crazy about the auction. This is a game that taught me I didn't really like auctions. But the rest of the game is strong enough to overcome that. The one thing is, I played it with my sister once, and she hated it. In fact, she refers to it as that horrible game with the coal and the uranium. So, it's definitely not for everybody, but it definitely is for me. My number 68, Power Grid. My number 67 is another older game. This is another one that I don't see played that often. This is Primordial Soup. It is a game where you are an amoeba, and you are swimming around in a stream of amoeba goo, and you're trying to get genetic mutations so that you can be stronger and faster. And meanwhile, you gotta feed yourself. And what do you eat? You eat what all the other amoebas poop out. And you're kind of moving your amoeba around to eat the leavings of the other amoebas in the game. But you're growing and developing, and it's got sort of whimsical artwork, and the gene mutations are fun and thematic. And it's just a great game. It's one of those games that every time I get it out, I'm thinking, geez, I wish I played that more. My number 67, Primordial Soup. My number 66 is a newer game. From Red Raven Games, the game is Islebound. In Islebound, you are a pirate who's sailing around and either pillaging ports or trying to negotiate with them to make them your subjects, and you're building your town and developing different buildings, getting special abilities. It's not a long game. It's in the Above and Below world, but it's a little bit more streamlined than Above and Below. And it's just a lot of fun as you sort of develop your own specialized crew and your own specialized town and special abilities, and you're just trying to do your best. And the money system is interesting. You've got sort of this closed economy where you have to pay. Whenever you pay for something, it goes into this community chest, and whenever somebody feels like it, they can spend their turn just to drain that chest and take all the money. So you're sitting there thinking, ooh, should I do it now? Should I wait another turn? Meanwhile, you're just, the board is tight, and you're trying to make the most of everything. It's a fabulous game, one that I would play gladly just about any time, and it works well with just about any number of players. My number 66, Islebound. My number 65, you'll notice I have Our Friend Cthulhu out, and, you know, he's on my hat. My number 65 is one of the best Cthulhu games, Eldritch Horror. Now, this is one of the expansions. I've got my whole set in 3 different boxes. The game is enormous, and there are way too many expansions. Not as bad as Arkham Horror, but Eldritch Horror is just a great exploration game. You've got this character, and you're taking him around the world, and all the different various Cthulhu mythos gods are different, and they've got their own stories, and it's very thematic, and it's not so much a game as it is a story. It's a story that you play, and it's one that I love to play, particularly with either by myself or with 1 or 2 other people who are looking for just a great time, and that is Eldritch Horror, my number 65. Next up, we have my number 64, which is a well-known game, kind of like Nothing Personal, but a little bit better. This is Cosmic Encounter. Cosmic Encounter has a bunch of aliens, and there are hundreds of different aliens, literally hundreds. I mean, I've got all the expansions. One of them wouldn't fit in the box, but most of them are in here. And each one has a bunch of different alien races. Each game you take one different race, and it has its own little special power, its own little tweak to the rules. And some of them are super strong, but you know, you're negotiating with other people, so people will gang up on you, and so it sort of self-balances. And you're just trying to work your way to 5 different planets. You got to get your ships on 5 different planets, and that gives you a victory. But it's just so interesting to watch how everything works together. And I've played it with people. I remember the first time I played it, we got it out, we tried it, and they were like, let's play again. And so we did. And I remember I was the masochist, which is my favorite alien. It's just so much fun. You're hurting yourself to try and win. But every different permutation in this I have not tried. I've played it lots of times, but not as many as there are aliens in this box. It is a lot of fun. Rulebook, not so good. In fact, it's one of those rule books that sort of put me off of reading rule books for a while, because it's very difficult to find your way around it. But if you can play with people who already know how to play, it's a lot of fun. Cosmic Encounter, good negotiation, good stories, lots of memorable experiences. My number 64. Next up, we have the first game, I believe, that I ever stayed up all night playing. I remember I was in law school, and my friends were visiting, and we just sat up and we played this game. And then we played this game. And then we played this game. I used to play it on Brettspielwelt, where it's, you know, the German title is Cardinal und König. But this is the English language version. You're building up this network of these abbeys across town, and you're going to score the abbeys. But then you've also got these little advisors, and you're trying to put advisors in different countries, and the number of advisors has to be equal to the number of abbeys that are in the area, and you know, there's a lot of planning that's going on, and you're just drawing and playing cards, but it works so well together. And it's fast, it works well with 3, it doesn't really work with 2, but 3 is probably the best, but 4 and 5 are good as well. It's pretty fast, it's not super thematic, right? It's just trying to get the most points. But it's a lot of fun, and it's a great game. My number 63, Web of Power. My number 62, I'm not showing you, and this is not because I don't know where it is. I know right where it is, but it is in 3 enormous plastic storage bins because it is an enormous game, and that is Heroescape. Heroescape is kind of like Duel of Ages, actually. You're taking a bunch of different heroes or characters from different worlds, and you're putting them together on a team, and you're just going and fighting. And it's simple, it's straightforward, the rules are not complicated, each character has a special ability. Line of sight is some of the most clever line of sight I've seen. It's basically, if you put yourself in your character's eyes, if you could see the other character, you can hit them. And you've got this terrain, and it's 3D terrain, and it stacks up, and you're moving around, and the models are fine. They're these nice painted models. You've got dragons, you've got dinosaurs, you've got colonial militia, you've got the Incredible Hulk, and they're all together, and they're all just fighting. And it's a game that you don't maybe, you don't maybe think it's that serious from a strategic standpoint, but it's a lot of fun. Problem with it, it's huge. It's so hard to store, and it takes probably longer to set up than it does to play. So once you set it up, you're going to leave it out for a little while. But it's also very hard to find and expensive. But it's a lot of fun. My number 62, Heroescape. And the last one for this particular video is my number 61, Dead of Winter. Now I've got all the Dead of Winter stuff. I've got this one, I've got The Long Night, I've got their new Warring Colonies expansion, and I even got the Raxon game, and it came with a bunch of Dead of Winter characters. This is a fantastic game with a hidden traitor. Basically, you're a group of survivors, and somebody might be betraying you, somebody might not. There's about a 50% chance. But everybody is forced through the game's mechanism to kind of act suspicious. So you might be thinking, okay, we need medicine. And everybody's like, okay, I'm putting medicine into this pile. I'm putting medicine into this pile. You put all your cards face down so nobody knows who did it. And then you see one person, and he has a secret, like, psychological tick where he's got to hoard medicine. He's a hypochondriac. He's got to have that medicine. And so he looks at everybody, and he says, I don't have any medicine. Meanwhile, he's, got his pockets stuffed full of medicine. It's just a lot of fun. The way that they worked the traitor into this is just so interesting, because the traitor has his own goal. He can't just sabotage the main goal. He's got to do his own thing. And so he's got to time when he springs his betrayal in order to make sure that he can actually win. It is a tense experience when you're the traitor. Let me just tell you. I remember, you got your heart beating and you're thinking, okay, this is the turn. I've got to do it right now. But even if you're not, you've got these arguments that are breaking out, I saw you take that. It's just a lot of fun. Not good as a 2-player game. You can play it with 2, but it's totally cooperative, and then it's just boring. But if you've got 3, 4, or 5, and you want to have some really immersive gameplay, you're fighting zombies, but it's really more about just these observations of how people are behaving, and it really brings out the worst in people, but it is a lot of fun. My number 61, Dead of Winter. And that, my friends, is it for today. We've got one more video until we get to the top half of my top 100, but so far we've talked about lots of great games. I hope you've enjoyed it. Thanks.